Today I'm putting in capacitors. I've already done all of the 100 nanofarad capacitors, and you can see them all over the board, although there are 50 of them. You'd never know it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. About 50 of those, and then there are about 1,000 picofarad capacitors, and if I've done my maths right, then the 100 of these has the same total capacitance as one of the 100 nanofarad capacitors, of which there are 50. And while I'm no electronics engineer, I think I know what's going on here. And what's going on here is that the lower the value of the capacitor as a general proposition, the better equipped it is to deal with high frequency noise. And so I've essentially, through this process, spread a single 100 nanofarad capacitor over the entire board. And that's how you keep a lid on the noise. You know, the noise that comes from one chip to another. Never mind the noise that might be on the power rails or whatever from the supply. Most of that should be okay. The noise that a chip itself makes as its load isn't constant. The voltage to it could readily rise and fall by small amounts based on the loads that it presents, which could in turn lead to oscillation and instability. So we spread these everywhere. Mercifully, these tend, so many of them, but they tend to come in runs. So over here I've put in the first one, which was capacitor 617, but next I've got C619 to 633, which takes me all the way down to there. Just so, whereas these other ones, as you can see, I've had to hunt all over. I actually expected them to be next to the RAM, but the capacitors next to the RAM need to be 1000 picofarad, not 100 nanofarad, which probably reflects their relatively low power consumption, I suppose, therefore less need for a huge tank, and their relatively high frequency. I measured one of these before, and the amount of capacitance I measure depends on how far down the leads I go, because charge can reside on the leads as well and on the traces on the board. It's at these sorts of levels, particularly without surface mount stuff, I don't know. I think to some degree it's all a bit of a sort of a broad and general kind of, let's have some capacitance around here and let's make sure that any AC on the traces in a million different spots gets shunted across and lost as heat. Anyway, that's the task for now. So, and again, this is what I did, not what you should do, but my understanding is that these ceramic capacitors are not polar. That is to say, they can go in either way around. And the reason I measured them at all was, I mean, I'm spoiled in that I've got this pack from Retrofix. Focus. Oh, maybe I'm still on fixed focus. But they're just bags and bags and bags of all the values, and then I've got a bomb over here that you can't see that I'm using as a workspace for my capacitors that has a list of where they all go, and then over there I've got my little Radeon E2 tiny PC from Lenovo, which is a steal at $50 on eBay, and I bought to do Amiga emulation on, and do run Amiga emulation on it. We'll probably hook it up to my stereo in the lounge room, home cinema thing. I figured that for $50 I should be able to have a self-contained computer with all nice ports and everything for a fraction of the cost of a Raspberry Pi 4, and that it should run faster anyway. And it seems that I was right on both counts. Lovely computer, but at the moment it's plugged into my sort of test monitor on my desk. It's an old one that has component, S-video and composite and VGA and DVI and HDMI and DisplayPort, the whole lot. It's plugged in there and it's booted into Linux. Although I'm going to try putting a Amiga theme on the Linux as well, but it's booted into Linux, and I've got Chrome running on it that I can use for the component locator, so that's really good. But these capacitors just have to all be fitted in and soldered on. Well, have I gone too far? Chatting away instead of focusing. 619 to 633. Oh no, lots to go yet. And that's the job. Just keep putting them in until they're all put in, and then I can move on to the next kind of component. I ordered some of these last night. Some sockets for these last night. I ordered a set of 10. I ordered 3M ones. As I think I've said before, when it comes to work like this, economizing on I'm just going to bend these legs out a little bit, hold them with my thumb. Economizing on a socket to save $2.50 in the midst of a project like this just strikes me as silly. I really would like a nice flat, I wonder if this will fit in there. No, I don't know what I've got. I can bend them all over by hand, I suppose, but I'd much rather have them all just moved together. I don't know if I have anything on my desk. I've got U2's new album. It's in a cardboard case, but I'd rather not scratch it up. It's actually quite a good album. Oh, I'll just do it with my finger. I can't really get into the bottom. I found that I want to bend them right at their bottom edge. Here we go. We'll use this. This is a 3, and I'll get something better. Well, something less niche, valuable. This is for my Amiga 3000. It's 3D printed and painted on the front to use a show the display of a Gotek drive as a second floppy. It's pretty nice. So yeah, I'm just going to sit there and poke at all of those with a soldering iron at some stage. But I'm going to press on and put in, I don't know, as many as I can. But anyway, that's the capacitors. I think from Hertel's guide, the electrolytic capacitors, the big fellas, they go in last, and the computer should start without them. So that's nice. But once these capacitors are in, I don't think there'll be that many really sort of bulk numbers of components. There's still a lot to install, and these edge connectors involve a lot of joints, but I'm not going to have to put in 100 of anything again. I'll be well on the way, actually. This is the last. Oh, hang on, no. There's all these EMI things through here. That will be time consuming as well. But although it's distant, I can see the end now, and I'm far better with a soldering iron now than when I started. Possibly better than I've ever been. It's just the bulk practice, or indeed the distributed practice. I can't remember their names. Was it Craig? Don't know. But I think the guts of it with practice was that if a person has 5 hours to practice a task, that distributed practice is better than massed practice. That is to say, spending 5 1-hour blocks doesn't yield as much skill at the end as 10 half-hour blocks. And of course there are, if you go with 1-minute blocks, it's no good. But practice is best done in smaller efforts more frequently as a general proposition, and that's how this kind of has to be. You put the components in until the back of the board looks like a porcupine. There's not all that many really, and you solder them all in, and then you put in some more, and then you go back and have another solder, and then you walk away and come back the next day or the day after and go again. It's a great way to build those skills. I also ordered last night for these locations here and this location here some LEDs, and their surface mount, which is not my favourite, hang on, I'm coming back, not my favourite thing, but the surface mount, and they'll provide me with really good reference points when I first test power this without having to have any of the original LEDs plugged in, and it'll be cool. I need a couple of resistors for over here, and I have this. I think they can still be purchased. Sample book, fairly cheap on eBay, and especially compared to trying to buy small numbers of, say, a 500 ohm resistor. A sample book like this, which has resistors starting at 0 ohms, 1 ohm, 1.2, 1.5, 2, 10, 12, 15, 20, 27, 33, and it just goes on and on, 2.7k, 10k, 33k, and then once you're done with those, 150k, 1 mega ohm, and then you go 2 mega ohms, and that's the end of the resistors. And then I've got surface mount capacitors starting at 15 puff all the way out to 100 nanofarad, 470, right through to 1 microfarad. And just super handy. And the resistor I need for that thing's 500 ohms, so according to the spreadsheety thing, 430, 510, well, we're good to go. But if I'd already used most of these, I'd go to 680 and the LED would be a bit dull. Wouldn't matter. Recommended. Really, really handy handy thing to have, and compared to compared to the cost of buying some individually from time to time and then having no real way to store them, and compared to the inconvenience of having to order them, this is a gift. I very rarely use surface mount components, but I don't buy capacitors or resistors, and wouldn't unless I needed more than, well, I mean, let's take a random sort of size. You get 2 rows of them. I don't even know how many that is. Many, right? Unless I needed more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, probably 20 in a row, and so I got 40 of each value. I'd have to need more than 20 before I even considered buying some. So yeah, I'll have some little LEDs on the board, which will make it look really 21st century. I did go with the green board though. That's the colour PCBs are. Anyway, I'm going to get these rest of these capacitors in, and I don't know if I'll show the EMI install along the back. There's something interesting about it. I actually don't know if they're these fellows, and I don't know if they're polarized. I don't actually know what they are, other than that they're a feed through capacitor. They've got me completely foxed. They're fascinating things. They've got like metal cylinders on each of the outer legs, And a friend and I plugged one into a component tester the other day, and it came up as a like all three legs in the component tester, it came up as a resistor. I don't know what they are. They're supposed to be a 100 picofarad. Oh, you can't measure that with one of those cheap testers, I don't think. I'll have to break out my proper my proper ESR meter to figure that out. Maybe do some reading. Anyway, as you can see, progress is quite good. And I don't think I've made a mistake yet. And I don't think I'll make one. And if I don't, I'll put the power connector in, my LEDs will come on, and I'll get a diagram display over the serial port or over the video port, depending on which stage of the testing I'm at. There you go.